What John F. Kennedy said about victory and defeat can be paraphrased in the Indian context as the following: censorship has 1,000 fathers. The free speech is an orphan. Not just an orphan, but one that is abused all the time. The collateral damage includes law and order, peace, justice, decorum, decency, and rationality. Thankfully, the Narendra Modi government has made it clear that the Archaeological Survey of India has been taking proactive measures in coordination with district administration to mitigate any damage to the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb's tomb. Culture Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat said this in a written response to a query in Rajya Sabha. Evidently, the statement was in response to the recent controversy involving Aurangzeb. Last month, a police complaint was filed against Samajwadi Party MLA Abu Asim Azmi over his remarks praising Aurangzeb. Now, it's a well-known fact that Aurangzeb was not a nice guy. He was a bigoted king who killed his brothers, imprisoned his father, and brutally treated Hindus. He also imposed the widely detested jizya tax on non-Muslims. Lauding such a person is offensive not only to Sikhs but also to not only to Hindus but also to Sikhs. He got the ninth Sikh Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, executed. But in a democracy, nobody should be prosecuted for holding views that are offensive to someone. A liberal democracy should uphold the harm principle. John Stuart Mill, one of the greatest champions of liberty, said that the only purpose for which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of a civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. A travesty of the harm principle is the offense principle. It lowers the bar for imposing restrictions on freedom of expression. Worse, it introduces ambiguous standards for the curtailment of liberty. It also leads us to the treacherous territory of hurt sentiments. Harm is objective. It can be physical, financial, etc. But hurt sentiments and offended feelings are subjective. The law is, or ought to be, guided by objective realities, not felt subjectivities. Azmi's laudatory remarks on Aurangzeb are indeed deplorable. But how on earth any praise of a cruel emperor can outrage the religious feelings of any class of citizens of India or insult the religion or the religious beliefs of that class? Azmi has been accused of these offences. The correct manner to cogently refuse the false and misleading contentions of a book or a statement is not to burn the book or imprison the person who makes that statement. The correct answer is to write another book or to come out with arguments to refute the contentious or stupid contention made by that person. So the correct view to trash Azmi's twisted ideas is to expose them, not to prosecute him. Police and administration entertain complaints against politicians, filmmakers, writers, etc. by claiming that their comments, movies, books, statements, etc. can trigger riots or cause law and order problems. Given a chance, they would proscribe or severely curb any remark by any person on any subject, for anything can hurt sentiments or outrage religious feelings or someone or the other. The moral duty of the judiciary is to curtail the excesses of cops, not the freedom of expression of citizens and politicians. The judiciary must speak the language of reason and prudence. I wrote in an article in the Times of India a few years ago, quote, Without the ballasts of rationality, poise, and gravity, sentiments behave like malfunctioning robots. Fortuitous combinations of circuits make their working arbitrary and often dangerous. Unbridled sentimentalism occasions the basest human instincts, grossest emotions, and stupidest ideas. It promotes the proclivity to capitulate to the cantankerous and the intractable, and it inevitably results in politicians covenant with self righteous charlatans and pious goons, all in the name of not hurting sentiments. The biggest casualty, of course, is the freedom of expression. The votaries of Hindutva are clamoring to erase Aurangzeb's traces from history. In this endeavor, they are relying on the sentiments of Hindus. At present, the Saffron Brigade is in the ascendant, but times change. A different breed of political activists can also use the same sentimentalist and sanctimonious means to undermine Hindutva ideology. For example, some enterprising Odia politician can launch a campaign against Biharis for the bloody conquest of Kalinga by the Emperor Ashok more than 2 millennia ago. Besides, the boot can be on the other foot. Tomorrow, anti-Hindutva parties may be in power. The champions of Hindutva should not lose sight of this reality. If someone can be tried for admiring Aurangzeb, someone else can also be prosecuted for praising Ashok or any other king. That will be another blow to free speech. Thank you.